I think parents and teachers and children should have had the choice. And I think they should still have the choice. Like, not everyone learns in the same way, you
Oh
know?
yeah. Well, I'll
Yeah,
give you a for instance. My nephew actually preferred doing remote learning.
I preferred teaching remote learning.
So there you go. And I think that if I'm elected and I have I know. So the weird thing about the county executive position is that even though like the majority of the budget goes to the school board, I'm sorry, to the school system, the school board has the actual control. Although I can say, I'm going to cut your budget because y'all are, not doing what the parents and students want.
Mm-hmm.
And so, going back to the control thing, I do have that power of the purse, the power of the purse, and so like basically, the county executive can get some things done, but ultimately the school board and ultimately the administrators at each school have that power. I mean, the county executive can't be in every single classroom, and when the county executive comes to a school, it's not the same thing as the daily occurrences, because all of a sudden, the teachers who maybe, I'll just say bad teachers or toxic teachers, all of a sudden they're, doing as well. And the students act better too. But, going back to what you were saying, like really, this is not a current system issue. We need to redesign what the system is, at least try doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that plus the honesty of your book about how chaotic the school system can be. And obviously it's not like that every moment, and not every school is like that. Not every classroom is like that. But like your brutal honesty is something that every parent especially needs to know.
Yeah.
So I think if parents that are listening and watching this interview, read your book, even the sample chapters. I don't know if that was intentional or not, but the first chapter, I think if you make the introduction and the first chapter free for anybody to listen to, I think they'll be so engrossed like I was that they'll want to spend how much does your book cost?
It's $20.
$20? Okay, $20. That's a drop in a bucket for most people. So even though things are like crazy with the prices, I think most people can afford $20, and I think a $20 investment in their children's education to understand like what they're getting their kids into.
Yeah.
Well, maybe because I'm telling you, it's the parents. It's on parents and students to voice their opinion to get a systematic change to happen.
I agree.
Because the teachers aren't going to be able to do it.
No. No, the parents and the students really have a lot more power than they think that they do. And I think when we start reclaiming our power as parents, and giving our children the ability to reclaim their power and their voice in how they want their life and their learning experience to be and what they want it to look like, I think that's when change can really start.
Agreed. And I mean, I don't say that to just pass the buck, as it were. It's the honest truth.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you that it's the people that reach out to me as someone running for office. Those are the issues that I'm alerted to.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them I know about, and I say, give them a thumbs up. And other ones I'm sometimes shocked about.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't realize was such a big problem. Maybe it's just a big problem in that person's life, but it's obviously something that I think needs to be addressed. And I mean, there's been some times where people have said things to me, and I'm like, okay, like you can kind of solve that on your own. I don't think the government needs to intervene. But let me get back to my notes here, and because I don't want to keep you for too much longer, and I have something scheduled for 6:30.
Oh, okay.
I don't need to be at it on time, but hold on, I'm getting back to my. Okay. Let's talk about the red pen. How come the red pen has like been made into this evil object?
Yeah, it just I don't know what it is. And actually, they actually have started to tell teachers now to stop using a red pen because students have such a negative connotation when they see anything written in red that it just screams like bad or failure to them. And it's something so silly. It's just a red pen. And yet the way that we've used a red pen has created so much harm for kids, and that makes them just feel like failures and terrible. And I mean, I remember getting my own papers back, and I would just, it was like the more red that you would see on your paper, the worse you knew that you did. And so now they're like, use another color, pick purple or green or something.
You just made me think of something.
What?
So this is and maybe we're on agreement with this, or maybe not. So I noticed that the students that needed to learn, who may not have been picking up on a subject as quickly as the other students, they got like extremely frustrated, and they felt like failures, and they felt stupid, and then they gave up.
Yeah.
And that, to me, as a substitute teacher, I didn't know. I mean, as a human, I tried to persuade them, and I even told them, like, you think I was as good as I am at what I do right off the bat? Heck no! It took me years to figure all this stuff out. I said, what I can do as a teacher is help you avoid having to go through the same mistakes as me, so it doesn't waste your time. I said, but here's the thing. Just, if you can, like, repeat it. If you had to reread it 3 or 4 or 5 times, do that. And don't feel like you're a failure because you don't get it right off the bat.
Yeah.
But I think that's something that I think is not talked about enough, is that, we should be not afraid to fail.
Right.
Because that red pen, or that, that moment of feeling stupid. I mean, I'll share with you what I shared before we spoke. On Monday night, right before I was about to do this debate, and I had all my things set up, and the last thing I plugged in was my microphone. And I'm a sound engineer. I tend to not make mistakes, but I plugged that microphone in, and it wasn't working, and I didn't understand why. Come to find out, I didn't realize this until a day later when I looked at the situation. I said, "Oh yeah, having that tape recorder plugged into," and this is, you're not going to probably understand what I'm saying, but audio people will. When I plug in my device, my tape, still call it a tape recorder, my portable recorder, when I plug that into the front input, the direct input of this audio interface, it defeats the input, the channel 1 input. So essentially, it doesn't work. The microphone wasn't working because I had something else plugged into another input. And I didn't, because the pressure was on, I couldn't figure that out in the moment. And so obviously I just went to the second input, and that worked perfectly fine. But it was embarrassing, and in that moment I did feel stupid, but I got over it. Even as a 37-year-old adult, we make mistakes. Yeah. And I think the young people out there need, especially the teenagers, where they're at that point in their life and every little thing matters. Yep. Every little thing. You remember being a teenager? Yes. Every little thing.
I think it's that way for all of us. We have all these things that matter, but in particular with teenagers, so it's everything is big, and little kids too. I think they have that kind of same sensation that everything is a big deal.
With teenagers, unfortunately, and I didn't want to. I think it's important to talk about the subject, and if you're not, I'll cut this part out. Teen suicide. Mm-hmm. You want to talk about that briefly?
Yeah, we can.
Okay,
sure.
So one of the things that happened over COVID, and I'll never forget it, and to me, I thought this would have been the turning point in all this. A 13-year-old committed suicide in Baltimore County, and he left a suicide note, and he said, because of I wasn't able to see my friends, I wasn't able to go to school, and be among other students, that physical interaction. And, talking to somebody over the internet is not physical interaction. Like, if I turn my monitor off, your face is gone,
Yeah.
If I cut my microphone off, my voice is gone.
Yeah.
So, as adults, we can communicate this way because, we've had that physical exposure. It saves you gas money or me gas money from having to travel to you. So it's just more convenient for, and we could have did this over the phone.
Yeah.
But a kid that age, that gets to them. They need that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And parents were screaming at the politicians, reopen the damn schools.
Yep.
Give us the choice. Let us take the, let us have that risk. However great.
The freedom to choose.
Yeah. The freedom. Cause I always say to people, like, when I get in this car, when I turn the ignition, a fire could burst out. The engine could burst. Now, likely that won't happen, but then I might get into a car accident that kills me. I'm taking that risk whenever I drive my car. I'm taking the risk, even just sitting here, an airplane part might fall onto the roof. There's risk in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the way it is. I could sit here and have a stroke. You know what I'm saying? Like, it happens. Same thing for you. You could all of a sudden have a heart attack for out of nowhere. You know what I mean? I mean, obviously that may not, likelihood of that happening is so minuscule. It's not even worth talking about. But the point is, give people the risk. But by the way, by keeping kids out of school, it unfortunately prolonged the pandemic. It was very irresponsible to cause the hysteria of COVID.
Extremely.
To withhold that information from people, simply just saying to them, and we didn't even have to withhold information. This is how I would have handled things. Somebody tests positive for COVID. We give them the government, procured, because I could just foresee people, going to the stores and buying up all the vitamin C and vitamin D and zinc and all this other stuff. But other governments were doing this where if you tested positive, so basically they were hoarding the supplies, and if you tested positive for COVID, you were given like a COVID prevention packet, mm-hmm. or whatever it was called. And if you look at the fatality numbers, other countries did much better than the United States. Now, I'm not saying causation or whatever the word is.
Correlation equals causation.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Correlation equals causation.
That's it. I'm not saying that, but at the same time, what else could it be? We weren't treating people early. Actually, no, it wasn't until this past season, I want to say, when the official pill for COVID came out, Paxlovid, when they finally said that this new phrase, test to treat, was not a thing until the year 2022 in the United States, with rare exception. And it was so frustrating because I knew this back in as early as June, but then I came to find out other people who were, in the depths more than me, doctors knew as early as April, the beginning of April 2020, that they could treat people, that they could help people avoid the I think it's called the cytokine storm, mm-hmm. or at least, prevent the severe form of that.
Yeah.
And so many people could have been saved. And I hate even saying that, because when I say that to people, it means that their friends and relatives that died in 2020 and 2021, 6 out of 10 of them at conservative estimates, 6 out of 10 people could have been saved.
Yep.
And it kills me to say that, but I have to say that. Not because I want the guy that's running for office, that's running against me, to lose, but because it's the damn truth. And I guarantee you he knew it. He didn't say it. And at the very least, the punishment should be you don't get to keep your position. Mm-hmm. And I wish I had a bigger megaphone. In July 2020 is when I knew for sure that there were early treatments available. Mm-hmm. but YouTube was shutting me down. Twitter was shutting me down.
Yep.
And I'm sorry to get off topic on that, but it's just that killed me inside when I found that out. And then when I went through it, and I mean, I knew it, and I did roll the dice on my own life, which was stupid of me. But, you know, I rolled the dice and I lived to tell about it. And I should have taken those preventative measures, and I didn't, but luckily I did survive, and otherwise I wouldn't be here to talk to you. But it's like this whole idea of like, there was nothing we could do until the vaccine came out. Bull.
Yeah.
Bull. So, sorry, where the heck was I? Oh, we were talking about, sorry, we were talking about,
You're talking about suicide and...
Yeah, suicide. So we could have got things back to normal.
Yeah.
A lot sooner had we been more honest with people. Stop scaring them to death to the point where they're wearing face masks in cars.
People are still wearing face masks, and it blows my mind. I'm like, I don't know. I don't understand. You know, it's like we've been so brainwashed to live in this perpetual state of fear. And again, look up the scientific studies of the impact of living under a constant state of fear and anxiety. Look at the impact of what that will do to your health, to your physical health, your mental health, your emotional health. It's so irresponsible and abusive what they've put us through these last 2 years. It's wrong. And I hope that you'll be able to do something different.
Well, I can tell you that I will never mandate masks. It'll be a choice. But I also, I don't know what the legality of it is, but I also don't want employers to be able to force their workers to wear masks. Mm-hmm. I think that they should have a choice. And as far as the needle poke,
mm-hmm.
I don't know what your opinion of that is. I've read enough information. Actually, a relative of mine has gone. I can't even say this because YouTube will censor it. They'll literally take this video down if I say what I want to say. But my relative got the needle,
mm-hmm.
and I'm trying to word this the proper way. My relative has not been able to work for a year, close to a year, and I think I don't need to say anything more than that.
Yeah. I had something similar happen. My relative also got the needle and she died. So
yeah. I'm sorry to hear that, ma'am. I'm sorry to hear that, Angela.
It's sad that the only person that I know personally that has died during this whole experience was because of that, not the actual illness itself. So
right. Yeah. And I brought this up during the debate, and I thought I could get through the county executive and I also was careful with the way I worded what I said, because I knew that the League of Women Voters NAACP video was going to be posted to YouTube, mm-hmm. and I didn't want that video to be taken down too.
Yeah.
But the county executive maintains safe and effective. So at this point, I'm going to try. I have one more thing up my sleeve that I'm going to try, so that, you know, because I'm personally affected by this. I told you I'm an event vendor. Mm-hmm. There's people who will not work with me because I didn't get the needle.
Wow.
You know, because I'm honest, I say no. I said I didn't get it, but if you look, having the actual illness is as good, if not better. Mm-hmm. And I have had it. It's documented that I've had it. It's not good enough for people though.
Yeah.
Because they're so misinformed. Mm-hmm. And if a politician would just be honest and have a doctor next to them saying the same thing, mm-hmm. we could get, all these issues a lot of these problems could be over with and done.
Yeah.
In a matter of hours, as long as that word got spread quick enough.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I did my best. I couldn't get through to the one who controlled this county so much for the past 2 years, and I'm sorry that he doesn't take me seriously. I thought maybe he would, but I was wrong. One other note. Oh, this is important, and I'm going to let you go because I'm sure you have other things to do, and so do I. I wish I could talk to you for 5 hours, 6 hours, But overcrowded schools. This is one that parents and teachers talk about a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's important for you to say your piece about your experience with what that did as a educator, as a professional educator. I think it's important that the word professional is used when I talk about teachers,
Mm-hmm.
because they are professionals in every sense of the word. They should be treated as such, and they're not. And take it away.
My first year teaching, I was placed in a classroom that had no windows and no air conditioning, and I was given 30 desks. My smallest class size was 35, which was supposed to be the legal limit. So that was the legal maximum that I was supposed to be able to have. But that was my smallest class size, and my largest class size had 42 students in it with only 30 desks.
Wait, so the biggest class that you ever had in that first year was 42.
Yep.
42.
I had 12 students that had no desk, nowhere to sit.
So they just stood?
They sat on the floor. Some of them would stand in the back. But yeah, it was very packed. It was very packed. And then eventually, as the year went on, so many of them had failed already because they refused to turn in any work, or they refused to do any work. And so when it got to the point that their grade was so low that they had already failed, they just stopped coming. A lot of them would just stop coming. And so, yeah, we had more seats at the end of the year, but it was terrible trying to teach in a classroom like that, especially in the summer when it was so hot, and to have 42 people squished in this tiny classroom with no air conditioning and no windows. And I would take screenshots. It would be over 100 degrees in my classroom, and everyone is just sweating, dripping with sweat, trying to conjugate verbs in Spanish. I mean, it was miserable.
Your brain cannot think when it's that hot.
No.
I don't think
awful.
I don't think politicians understand how important climate control is. Because if you're freezing to death, that's another problem. But I remember those days because I was in a non-air conditioned high school. And yeah, those last few weeks of school were just brutal.
It is. It's brutal. And
it was basically, and I was a skinny kid back then. So I can't imagine, I just can't imagine what it would be like if for the people, the other students. And I just remember not being able to think properly, and everybody wanted to go to the library because that was like the air conditioned area. So like we would, I remember the teachers would figure out ways to like get library time just to get the AC.
It should not be 2022 and we still have schools with no air conditioning. I mean, it's just like we're one of the wealthiest nations in the entire world, and yet we have classrooms with not enough desks and no air.
Yeah.
That should not happen.
It's absolutely pathetic. And by the way, politicians, right now it is June 16th, right? So I would like you all that are sitting there in your offices to turn off the climate control. And I dare you to put up with it for an hour. I dare you. So
that's a good one. I would love to hear their experience of how that goes.
I want to record
and try to do that with 43 other people in the room and trying to talk to them, and teenagers, mind you, with hormones and wanting to move around. And yeah.
I would like to record this social experiment in 4K, 4K Ultra HD.
That would be awesome. I'm looking forward to getting that video.
And they can turn the climate control back on once all schools in Maryland are air conditioned.
I like that. Yeah, you can have your AC back when the kids get it.
Yeah, I'm telling you. So let me double check. There's not one last important thing. Okay, so I want to wrap it up by briefly just talking about Peaceful World Schoolers. What is
Yeah.
that?
So after I left the classroom in September of last year, I was really trying to think about what I would like to do to
Hold on.
contribute.
Before we continue,
Yeah,
so I forgot to ask you. So you were actually fired over the mask?
I was, yes. Yeah, I have 2 doctor's notes that I am not able to medically tolerate wearing a mask. I've had a valid medical exemption, and I also have a valid religious exemption. And both of those were accepted by my district last year, but this year they just decided not to honor that.
And by this year, so last year that would have been which school year?
The 2020-2021 school year.
Okay.
Or no, I'm sorry, 2021 to 2022. So it was like the end of last year. They accepted my medical exemption. And then this school year, so the 2020, I'm sorry, I'm got my years, but 2021 to 2022.
Yeah, so hold on. Yeah, I'm confused too. Okay, so it was.
So last year was 2020 to 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that school year, they honored my medical exemption. And then in the fall of this last year, so August 2021, they refused to honor my medical exemption, even though it had been documented and it was approved. My principal just did not want to honor that, and they ended up they're in the process right now. I haven't been officially fired yet. I'm still in unpaid indefinite leave.
So they didn't even give you like an option to like do a test every week or something like that?
No, they just said I had to wear a mask or be fired for insubordination.
Wow.
And I told them I have a doctor's note saying that I can't medically tolerate wearing a mask, and you're aware of that. And she was aware of why I couldn't. And she was like, well, you either need to wear a mask or leave. And so, yeah, she said that I was being insubordinate, and that was the end.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that, especially knowing that I did send emails, and I'm sure I wasn't the only one. I'm not trying to like brag when I say this. It's just I want to tell people that I have a paper trail of evidence that I sent to these different people that were making these decision makers, these stakeholder decision makers, and all the other catchphrases that they use in the educational system. I sent emails. I know I made social media posts with these videos of people wearing masks and blowing smoke right out of them, which, showed a visible demonstration of, and I don't even know if I can say this, I'm trying to be careful with my words, but a visible demonstration that these items of interest did not provide the
protection.
I don't want to even say that word. See, this is sad that I have to censor myself.
The promised result.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. The promised result, that we can get away with that one. They did not They did not provide the promised result that was in the mainstream thought bubble, and so basically, these were being worn as decoration, and they didn't even want to try it. Like, oh, let's try one school where this is not the rule.
Yeah,
it could be a choice, but it's not the rule. They didn't even want to try it because they didn't want to be proven wrong.
Right.
And that's the thing. And I'm gonna tell people, anybody that's listening to this who's in Baltimore County, I'm willing to admit that I'm wrong. I've done it before. Go on my Twitter feed. I'm wrong at least once a week that I admit to it. I say that as a joke, but like a lot of politicians, they will not admit that they're wrong. Some people don't even want to call themselves politicians. Like, to me, it's just like, yes, I am in the political field, therefore that's my word. They're unwilling to admit mistakes. They're stubborn in that. I'm like, look, if things are wrong, it is moronic to continue down that path.
Right.
So, thankfully, parents and students were fighting. And it took until, I believe it was March 1st for Baltimore County to get off of this moronic rule. Yeah. And guess what? they were taken off, and the cases kept going down. And they didn't want to, and they didn't want to admit that. And it's like, look, these things are cyclic. They tend to pop up, when the temperatures get colder, the heat goes on. I don't know what the scientific reason for that is.
Actually, because of the vitamin D. So the less sun that we have, like sun gives us vitamin D, which boosts our immune system.
Oh, there you go.
When we have less access to sun, then we have less access to vitamin D, which means our immune systems tend to, decrease. And so, so that's why most people get sick in the winter, because we're not outside in the sun as much.
There you go.
Yep.
And the windows can't be opened. Maybe that has something to do with it too.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a classroom where there's no windows, oh my goodness, what is that, a prison?
Basically.
I honestly, in 2013, I had a classroom that only windows were to the TV studio. So I can't, and to the outside hallway. Uh-huh. So it technically had windows, but they just weren't to the outside.
Just windows on the inside.
So,
I would have loved to have had just that, I think.
Yeah.
And nothing was, it was brutal.
I can't complain, but we can improve the way, if we're going to spend so much time and money educating young Americans. And that's the way I like to look at it. Like, this is our nation. Mm-hmm. And it is bad that we are like not in the top 5, like as far as educational quality, and there's things that we can do. And we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We can, and let's try Angela's idea. Why not? Let's try it. One school for 1 year. Let's give it a shot. And if it doesn't work, let's go back to the old system, but give it a try. And if it's successful, let's not be stubborn about it. And let's have, I'll call it a charter school, for lack of a better word. Mm-hmm. We can have these, like, what would you call it? Educational freedom charter schools.
Yeah, self-directed learning centers. And educational freedom charter school. That would be great. I like that.
And they don't even have to be at like these official school buildings. There's so much open. Commercial, there's so much open commercial real estate right now because of the failing economy that the government could spend money, and we could put them in just there needs to be a building for them to go to. Mm-hmm. Let's try it. Let's try something different. Why not? And please check out Angela's book, which. Say it again for me. Toxic Teacher.
Tales of a Toxic Teacher, Exposing the Cycles of Abuse Within Our Schools.
Available on Amazon. This year at some point, audiobook, but right now, Kindle and physical. Yep. And do you have reviews on that book in the comments?
I do, yeah. And I can send you some of those, but yeah, feel free to look on Amazon. And if you do read my book, I would greatly appreciate if you would leave a review and leave a comment as well. That would be very helpful. I had a couple people that had heard about my story with the masks that decided to go leave a bunch of bad reviews and never even read my book just because they were mad about that.
I didn't even know that about you prior to you coming on here. Yeah. Prior to, I think it was in the introduction of the book, but I had no idea. Oh. I don't know how we met on Twitter, but I saw you and I'm like, oh, this would be an interesting thing. Cause and I didn't even know you were from Maryland originally. Remember I asked you I didn't, and cause I had seen DC, I think, on your profile. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad we met virtually, and I'm so happy to talk to you and really get these issues addressed, because win or lose an election, like, it's not about me. It's not about what this is about like society, like, and where we're going to take it for the future. Mm-hmm. And if we can get back to a point where we're not wasting students' time, wasting teachers' time, wasting parents' time, and getting them interested in learning. Yeah. Because that's a big thing. That's a huge thing. Getting them loving learning. Mm-hmm. I think is what somebody on the Board of Education debate said the other day.
Yeah, and you can't inspire a love of learning as long as we continue to force and coerce them to do so.
Yep, and we're just going to keep graduating kids who really don't know what they're doing. They're not going to have any they're going to feel lost when they graduate.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that is a horrible thing, and to waste so much money and time to
Mm-hmm.
have these students who are just passed through the system, you know, in this toxic system, and just, you know, so yeah, you know, these students who maybe they feel lost right now in the current system, they would be perfect candidates to try at this educational freedom center.
Yeah.
So please check out Angela's book and follow her on Twitter. And
I'm also on Instagram and Facebook too. So if you're on Instagram or Facebook, I can share with you that. So I'm at Peaceful World Schooler on Instagram, or Angela Harders on Facebook.
Say that again. At what?
At Peaceful World Schooler on Instagram, and then Angela Harders on Facebook.
What about Twitter?
My Twitter, I have two different ones. I'm at AJ Harders. I think that's the one that you found me on. And then I have an at Peaceful World Schooler on my Twitter also. So both of those.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for talking with me. I believe we're close to 2 hours, if not past that point. But I love speaking with other Marylanders and trying to get societal problems solved, or at least talked about, so that, and especially in a brutally honest way. And I'll warn people out there, it's not censored.
Yes.
And I love that it's not censored. But if you don't like naughty language, then I don't know, put tape on the book or something. I don't, you know.
Skip the first chapter.
So you said skip the first chapter?
The introduction. It's not all throughout. It's just the introduction.
Okay, skip the introduction, and there's not as many naughty words. All right, well, have a good evening.
Thank you so very much, Adam. It was so great talking with you and sharing and exploring some of these other ideas that I think can really make a difference in the world.
All right, you're welcome, and I wish you the best in whatever success that you're looking for.
Thank you so much, Adam. Best of luck to you.